Hey there, hey there, hey there, hey there, hey there, hey there. How y'all good people doing out there in this world? Are y'all listening? Are y'all here? Are y'all here? Appreciate you. Sign up, sign up, sign up, share, share, share. I got a word to tell you. I got a word to tell you. I got a word to tell you. This is Jay Jones. I'm sorry. This is Hype Jones. Hype Jones coming to you live and direct. It is Friday afternoon, November the 19th at 8:02. We are live and in living color, and we have a show to present to you. We appreciate you taking the time to listen, listen, listen. What's going on, Alderman Thomas Bobby? How you doing, my good friend out there in Port Wentworth? It's time to listen. It's time to listen. It is time to listen. I have a show for y'all today, man. The courtrooms, I don't even know what to say when it comes to the judicial system in America, but we need a refresh, revive, and revamp of all the courtrooms in America. As you understand, as you heard. Yes, sir. How you doing, my brother? I'm standing tall for you, sir. I salute you, Mr. Leonard Smalls. Thank you. I feel blessed and highly favored with you tuning in today. I'm kind of despondent and I'm kind of behind the eight ball. Miss Betty Jones, thank you for joining in today. I'm despondent. I don't even know what to say about what happened, what occurred today in the courtrooms in Wisconsin. I might not even watch Green Bay Packers play this weekend, understanding what happened in the courtrooms of Wisconsin. This young man, and I'm not for any man to spend the rest of their life in jail, and I'm not for all that. I'm all for a fair and partial judicial system, but this young man got away with killing two people and then injuring another person, and all the cases were found not guilty. This is right in America. And two things that I'm not hearing a lot of in America, I need your help. So if you don't know the answer, you find somebody who knows the answer. But I need help because this all came from a previous occurrence tied to a black man being killed by police officers, and so there was a rally going on in reference to police brutality, and then we don't even get enough news on what happened with the police officer tied to that situation. But here we are. This young man gets away pretty much with murder. Now, once again, I'm not for anybody being put in jail the rest of their life. However, what about the families of the two people who died from the gunshots? He didn't just kill somebody. He came from another area and came to that person and killed somebody. And so, I'm kind of, mixing between. That's not what I really wanted to talk about today. What I really wanted to talk about today at the beginning of the subject, at the beginning of the time, was I was going to talk about the bipartisan bill that we passed. I was on the news today with the mayor of Savannah, Georgia, along with my newly appointed councilwoman here in Port Wentworth, along with my good friend Orlando Scott. We all supported our new councilwoman in Port Wentworth. I'm going to tell you right now, Port Wentworth is going to be strong moving forward. I saw some angry faces when I was there. I saw some enlightened faces when I was there. And I'm just looking forward to looking how government structures like Port Wentworth is going to change the atmosphere moving forward. Shouts out to all those municipalities. We're going to do a show on that. All those municipalities who step forward, African Americans who step forward to change the scope and the narrative of those municipalities. We're going to see positive and great change. Hopefully it will incite somebody else out there who is ready to run in those municipality races in 2 years to come. But I am doing a special shout out to all those people who stepped up to the gate, ran their race, and won their seat, and ready to go make effectuous change in those communities. Shouts out to those people. Shouts out to those people. Shouts out to those people. But today, I really want to. I'm kind of in a catch-22 calls all because I'm just shocked. Discombobbled by the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse was cleared of murder on 5 counts. 5 counts. First degree intentional homicide, not guilty. Attempted first degree intentional homicide, not guilty. First degree reckless homicide, not guilty. First degree reckless endangering safety, not guilty. First degree reckless endangerment safety, a second charge, not guilty. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Where in America can these things happen? Where in America can these things happen? Now, y'all can go ahead, get into that discussion that well, race wasn't a factor, this wasn't a factor. That's bull hockey, because you know what? People of African American descent are getting put in jail for less offenses. You know, one thing and y'all know what? Y'all can talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. I want to talk about a situation that happened in 1999 by a young man, and no, he's no kin to the hype Jones, Julius Jones. Julius Jones was sentenced to be executed, and he has been waiting to be executed for all this time without a possibility of parole. He's been waiting to be executed since 1999 for a crime he did not commit. I'm going to say that again for those people who ain't listening. For a crime he did not commit. And finally, after the guy who actually did the murder confessed to the murder, after all these other stuff, and after him saying he was innocent the whole time, he was finally, it was finally, and I'm going to say this again, his sentence to death, the governor Stent announced he decided to commute Jones' sentence to life and death without possibility of parole. Saying the statement, he said, after prayerful consideration, he let the man, he commuted Jones. And so when we talk about how unfair this judicial system really is when it comes to black and brown people versus those of other races, man, how can we ever get anywhere? How can we ever change anything if we're not really to have these healthy discussions about how our systems, how our things are totally different when it comes to black and brown and it comes to other races? We have to be willing to have these narrations. We have to be willing to have these conversations. I want to read what the news said. The news said the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole has twice recommended Jones' sentence to be commuted. They twice recommended, not once, twice recommended that his sentence be commuted to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole, most recently in a 3-1 vote as of November the 1st. The ruling was a boon to the Jones many supporters, but the Republican governor, y'all listen now, the Republican governor on Thursday said he was commuting the sentence with the condition Jones would not be eligible for a commutation, pardon, or parole for the rest of his life. And so, yes, his thing was communed, but then he's not eligible for parole the rest of his life. So we still got some work to do. Even when this person has been presumed to be innocent, you have all these factors. They still want to keep this man in jail because it's an example of how America doesn't work in its judicial system. And so we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the 3 branches of government. You have the executive branch, and we talk about the executive branch. They're the branch of government that carries through the laws. They don't make the laws, they just carry through the laws. They make sure that laws are put on the books to do what needs to be done to hold back people, and sometimes otherwise. These people who were killed by Kyle were demonstrators of Black Lives Matter. That is the black equivalent factor. You're absolutely right, Brother Leonard. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely, and if you didn't know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. You're absolutely right. But see, the thing about it is, back to what I was saying, we have the executive branch, which is the one who carries out the laws. We have the legislative branch, who is the one who writes the laws. And I'm going to get back to them because that's been our devil for a long time. And then you got the judicial branch, who has the easiest job of all is to interpret the law. And so when you have biased laws, all the judicial branch got to do is say, well, that's the law. If that's what the law say, I got to agree with it. Now, I don't agree with that statement, but I'm just bringing it down. Now, executive branch is the one who carries out the laws. And so they're just going to carry out what the legislative branch does. And so what we lose at as a people is we're not making sure we have the correct body of legislators out there to make sure those laws are carried out. And so when you have these situations out here, when we talk about when we talk about unequal process of the laws, a lot of times it's on us because we're not going out there and doing what we need to do to make sure the right kind of legislators are in office. Because if you got fools in play to make the laws, they're going to make laws to fit the fools. I'm going to say that again because it sounds like a tongue twister, but it's not a tongue twister. If you got fools in place to make the laws, then the fools going to make the laws to fit them. And so when you got people who are in the judicial piece that are ones who can create the law, enforce the law, and fixate the law for them to thrive, then we can't get mad at the system. And guess what? And they'll even further say every 2 years, you got a right to come out there and say whether I'm right or wrong in this position. And if we're not willing to go and make sure we put the right kind of people to represent us, we're going to keep failing at what we do. And I think my brother had said it best. Yes, we have. America is not broken. It works just like the way the white man designed America for it to work for them. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Now, when they said that, they were only talking about men, and y'all women folk, white women included. They weren't talking about none of us. They were talking about them, the privileged land owners. They weren't even talking about all white men because you had to own land too. We're talking about privileged land owners, the privileged land owners, which were white males in most parts in this American society when this Constitution was broken. So you're absolutely right. This country isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But what are we supposed to do? As a people, we're supposed to get involved in the country and make sure we turn it over. I'm going to say it again, Councilman Barbie. I'm going to say it just like this. You're going to be the one who shows us how to do that in Port Wentworth, because as the legislative branch of government for Port Wentworth, y'all are going to make sure the right rules and laws and everything out there are going to fit the American people in Port Wentworth. And I guarantee that Port Wentworth will be a shining example if the body members who we have elected in Port Wentworth step to the gate and do right by the people. Because people-led government is a fair structured government for the people. And so shouts out once again to my community out there in Port Wentworth. But going back to what it was said earlier, this all stemmed from a Black Lives Matter rally and in protest. And this young man, he didn't just cross lines. He came into community. He's not from with an AR. And if y'all don't know what an AR, that's one of them assault rifles that actually don't have 1 or 2 rounds. They meant to take down a whole tribe. He came 18 years old, came into a community that's not his community, and he said he was on to inflict the law. Now, tell me that ain't no hillbilly backwoods bull crap that you ain't ever heard in your life. Now, when you talk about a 17-year-old coming into a community that is not his community, enforcing the law, you already starting problems. Because an 18-year-old shouldn't have an AR, an AK-47, or whatever it shouldn't have any kind of assault rifle to actually inflict, because he don't understand the narration of what that gun can and cannot do. And what it did do was it killed 2 people, and it critically injured a person. And he got on that stage and he cried. And white privilege kicked in, and he now is found not guilty on all those charges. Now, y'all can say what y'all want. Let that been a black man walking in there, he wouldn't even had to stand trial because he'd have been dead on arrival. And y'all can say whatever y'all want, but I understand with the institution of my heart and understand with full guidance and approval, a black man would have died if he had a gun out there. Because they'd have been start shooting right off hand. They wouldn't have gave it no opportunity for him to be able to say what he had to do. He wouldn't have been able to get on the stand and cry, and all this other stuff wouldn't have been exact to happen. You see, it's unfair in Black America that I got to raise my child differently than most people have to raise their kids. Now, I want it clear and understood. I think every day how my child has to go into a school system and I'm not there to protect them. I got to think every day. When my child wants to go play outside, that one of us has to be there just to make sure that that child don't get kidnapped. I got to think every day when I want my child to have that same privilege and same right. I got to think every day when I get pulled over by the police officer that I don't get shot or killed or anything like that. I got to think every day differently as an African American. And guess what? I ain't in no poor neighborhood. I ain't in no neighborhood that's not successful. I'm not in no neighborhood that don't have all the advantages. I mean, that don't have all the disadvantages. I'm in a neighborhood that has the advantages. But I also understand that African Americans get targeted for everything there is under the sun. And so when we get into these conversations, these candid conversations, we got to make sure we're having these candid conversations to point out the injustices that affect America. And guess what? We cannot be afraid to talk about systematic racism, racism itself, because systematic racism, as my sister told me today, we had a heated discussion. She explained to me systematic racism is racism that's built into the system to keep racism thriving, or a particular race thriving over another race. And so when we have these systematic racist undertones that control America, and guess what? White America gets mad at us. And when I say white America, I'm not talking about all white America. I'm talking about the white privilege status quo America that controls the economics, that controls the environment, that controls the government. When they get mad at us, they get embellished by what we got. When we start calling that out, it's not about trying to say black or white or poor or rich. When we talk about it, we got to understand there is an ingrained system in our society that does not allow us to be able to thrive in America. And then systematic racism is smart enough to say, hey, you got 2 or 3 guys that have made it, and you, guess what? You got to, what about I can't think of the name. What about Oprah? Oprah made it. What about Jordan? Jordan made it. Systematic racism is smart enough to understand to point out those 1 or 2 people who made it in society as African American, and even as docile as some of these people who have made it. Systematic racism points out that piece, but it doesn't point out that 2-3% made it. But what about that 99-98% that's still struggling? It doesn't point out that least of these are still inhabiting those social epilogues that don't benefit them. And so let me go, because I don't have my people with me today, but let me go ahead and talk about Bernard, big brother Bernard. Yes, amen. It's 2 Americas. Yes, it is 2 Americas. There is white privilege America, and then there's the rest of us. Sometimes they don't even realize themselves that they are part of the group that's getting left out. That's the sad part about life. What's going on? Amen. Amen. Ferrante, what's going on, my beer? And our youth are going to jail for having plants to smoke. Hey, you absolutely right, my brother. Here we go. Ferrante, our black lawyers and judges have an allegiance to the legal society, so they contribute to locking up our youth for crazy rules of the government. And we talk about that all the time. Systematic racism is a form of control over one or control over another race. You're absolutely right. And the dominant race is the race that actually controls it. Bernard, little brother, let me ask you a question. Black lives do matter. So why these young black men still killing one another? You know what, brother? That's the greatest question in the world. But you know what? It's like this, Bernard. This is how I look at that. When you start a car, you're going 30 miles an hour because the speed limit said go 30 miles an hour. If you hit that gas and go even harder, you can go 35, 40, 45, 50. And what happens over time is as you adjust your speed, as it increases over time, if you're not willing to have your foot to go on that brake, you're not going to slow down. Now, if you take your foot off the gas, you'll slow down slow. And what's happening right now is we've taken the foot off the gas, but guess what? We still moving. And if you don't apply the brake, and what that brake is, we got to get to these young brothers and sisters and put that break inside and that break there to show them that what they're doing is counterproductive to the African American population, African American society. And see, what that problem stems to is we don't have role models like we used to. We don't have role models like we used to. We're losing touch with making sure that we push young black brothers and sisters to become lawyers, doctors, to become presidents, to become everything every day in our society as far as changing the world, changing the scope of things. And until we as a people start reinvesting into our next generation, we're going to keep suffering from the degradation that we already suffer from. Racism never went away. Hate is hate. No law can change a heart. Most people of color never got the promise of the 40 acres and a mule because Abraham Lincoln was assassinated before that could be followed through. And I'm going to say that piece. So you learn to survive in systematic racism and you move. Most, not all people of color moved north for the betterment opportunity, and that happened during the Great Migration because when we wanted to get away from our slave masters, that's when everybody moved north. But guess what? The Great Migration is coming back down south. Now a vast majority moving back south. That's what I said, and he just backed what I said. People chose to pretend, hoping racism will go away, maybe got better, and you took it away from me before I finished. Reality is we still live in two American systems, and you're absolutely, positively right. Producer, I appreciate you keeping that going for me. And the last, and watch this, complexion is protection. And so when we talk about complexion and protection, we also got to talk about Willie Lynch, because at one point in time, Big Sister Tanya, at one point in time, Willie Lynch used to thrive as far as our mentality was concerned. And guess what, Tanya? It still thrives today. We still hate each other. And that's a big part of that common denominator too, Brother Bernard. We still hate each other. Light skin versus dark skin. We still do jokes, ha ha ha, he, laugh about light skin versus dark skin. Young Negro versus old Negro. We still fight about economics. Brothers who made it, brothers who haven't made it. That I'm gonna stop calling it Willie Lynch, and I'm gonna call it crabs in the barrel syndrome, because crabs in the barrel syndrome still affects us in 2021. We're not willing to push each other forward, and we hold each other hostage to our history. And we don't give anybody an opportunity to narrate away from their history. A lot of times, a lot of brothers and sisters do things not because they chose to do it, but because they did it. And big brother, you ain't got to tell me Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. I done said it 1,000 times before. I'm going to say it tonight at 10:30. I know Abraham didn't free the slaves. He had to do what he had to do to keep America together. And I want to, so people didn't see, Abraham Lincoln did not free the black people in the South. He only freed the North people. That history touched. No, he freed everybody. He had to free everybody. So I can't agree with you wholeheartedly on it. He freed everybody, but he had to do it because it was a compromise. If it had been 2 weeks later, he wouldn't have had to do it. But he was doing it as a compromise. But I do want to focus, I think both of us can agree on this. When he did free them, if it was north, south, east, west, whatever, when he did free them, America gave us absolutely, positively nothing when we were free. We were free and given the freedom, and that was it. You had to go out there. And that's like taking your 18-year-old child that you done raised all these time, and you just take him, right? And you say, son, I wish you the best. And you put him outside that door. And he don't have a place to go no more. He ain't got a place to eat. He ain't got a car. He ain't got nothing. And guess what? You just tell him to go on the other side of that door, and I wish you the best, son. And you did nothing to prepare him for life on the other side of that door. That's what happened when slavery happened. It gathered the slaves together. Some of us were given the opportunity and said, you know what? Here you go, son. You do what you do, and wish you the best. And some people were told, okay, now you're free, but if you want to work for me, you can work for me at this small wage. And oh yeah, because you work for me, because you stay with me, I'm gonna give you a place to stay, but I'm gonna charge you for that place to stay, and then I'm gonna let you have front you some cash. And watch this. He laugh. I'm gonna front him some cash, but he ain't gonna never be able to pay me back. And I got him for life. And the sad part about it, that big brother Bernard, guess what? Some of us still caught in that same slave trap in today's society. Some of us are still caught in that same slave trap almost 200-300 years after slavery has been gone, or the perception of slavery has been gone. Some of us are still not free. You are absolutely right. Some of us are still not free. Where you go? Some of us are still not free. You're absolutely right. Some of us are still not free. And we talked. I don't know if it was me, you talked about this, big brother. We were trying to hint toward this conversation when we talk about music. See, we were, and I don't know if it was with you, me and you, big bro, but we had the great conversation about music and how music has destroyed this current generation. Now, my thing is, guess what? It ain't no different than the music I listened to when I was growing up. The one thing I had was I had two parents who were good role models. And so therefore, because I had two parents who were good role models, music was not a way of life. Music was not a way of life. Music was just something I accept to actually have as entertainment. Now, this is the problem in today's society. Some people view music as a way of life, meaning, doing the drugs, drinking, smoking, sleeping with multiple women, doing all that stuff, that process and all that stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to talk about any child in today's society because all that music existed when I was coming up, when I was the age. We had the Too Shorts, we had the UGKs, we had all those music, and like I said, I use it as entertainment. Now you have that same glorification of life. It's just more metamorphosized into this day and generation for this generation to see it in a different light. And my thing is, guess what? I'm smart enough to understand. I got somebody who's young enough in my house who may get affected, who may even bump into that lifestyle or that kind of music. And so guess what? It's my job to actually go through it and listen to it myself. And guess what? Code language it and break down the code of it so I can understand what kind of mess is coming into my child's head so I can make sure he understands it's entertainment and not actually life. But not every child has those kind of parents in their lifestyle. And so guess what? There are a lot of kids out there who understand and listen to music and make it into a lifestyle judgment decision. And so when they test all the limitations that's presented in that platform of music, it taps into their ears, into their mind, and into their soul. And anything that goes in your soul becomes a part of who you are, the fabric of who you are. And so when we talk about music by design, by constraint, is always and has always been the thing, the pipeline into your soul. And see, they understand in music, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it. You repeat it. So by the time you've repeated enough times, guess what? That has embellished into your heart, into your soul. And so now you try to live that constraint that's really bent to tear you apart. But if we don't understand the difference between entertainment and understanding what can destroy you or can kill you, then we accept whatever can be. And black music sells. That's the plan for the black community. And guess what? You're absolutely right, big bro. When we talk about music, I agree, but there was music that did raise a state of conscience. And you're right. At the same time, when I listen to all them, I listen to the leaders of the new school, all the Boys and Men, all that R&B music that actually talk about consciousness and everything like that. Leaders in the new school, I can't think of it right now to save my life. All those rappers, Common, Outkast, all those rappers who actually, there was a lot of conscious music. But does conscious music exist anymore, James? That's my problem. That's my question. It don't exist like it used to. At one point in time, you had a choice of reasoning when it came to music. And my thing is, guess what? When you talk about conscious music now, the first thing they say is that's commercialized music. And when you say commercialized music to a younger person, then guess what? You're automatically telling that young person, that ain't music you need to listen to. That ain't music that's good for you. But they say it's commercialized because you know why? It doesn't have any derogatory language. And so, the same people, I'm going to say this, the same people that were telling Ronald Reagan to demonize rap music in the early 80s were the same people who were behind the record labels pushing that music in the early 80s. So they was actually telling the president to demonize it, but they were actually pushing the music at the same time. You know why they were doing that? Because all that was tied to the crack epidemic and all those other drug epidemics that were actually built to destroy the black community. And the music is still being used to destroy the black community. Because how do you exterminate the black community? You cut off the seed. Well, what is the seed of the black community? It's the African American male. And if you cut off the African American male, you cut off the seed to the music. The seed to the community. And so when you talk about constraints of race, when you talk about black is just a color. Black is a color that they put you into as a pipeline. Just like African American. African American is a construct saying that you are a descendant of Africa. But how many generations are we now far removed from Africa that we can say we're African American? Because if you go to Africa, they ain't gonna claim you as an African American. So there's so many different, and I'm not here to put Warren out there. I'm not here to tell you don't call yourself African American. I'm not here to tell you don't call yourself black. But I am here to make sure you're conscious enough to understand you have been given labels throughout society. We as people of color have been, and that's another name. We as people of color have been given many labels in society. And what we have not been able to do is we have not been able to look at ourselves and give ourselves the label and stick with the label and say, this is the label I'm going to live by and this is the label I'm going to fight for. And until we do so, guess what? We're going to accept anything that's brought forth to us. And so I know I went in the circle. I know I went in the conversation. And guess what? That's what I do. I go from one conversation to the next conversation, to the next conversation, to the next conversation. And guess what? I'm a black man too here in America. And I understand as a black man in America, I think the biggest thing that we have to fight for is economics. And until we get the first right of economics, we're going to be second class, third class, even fourth class citizens in these United States of America. They have attempted to replace us at least 3 or 4 times in America, and we have stood strong the test of time. And we're going to continue to stand in the test of time because we're not just American, we're not just black, we're not African Americans, but we're also God's people. Because God always said first, the people of the earth, the people will inherit the earth. And my thing is, as poor people, as people who are not in the position of power, even those people who think they got a couple of dollars in their pocket, if you're not in a position of power, you just sitting there in the structure, wait for them to tell you what to do. And I can tell you that you can have $200,000 or $300,000 in the bank. They still can tell you what to do. And until we start owning what we need to own in our community, and that don't look like, and my thing is, we can't fight other people's fight. We got to learn to fight our own fight. And our first fight should be within our local confines, in our community we can touch. The kids we can touch, the parents we can touch, the community, the government we can touch. Those are the things we have to fix first. And I guarantee if we make a national commitment to that piece right there, then we can fix everything problematically speaking in America, because then we'll start electing the right kind of people that can change the narrative here in our community. And so I always talk about it. People always talk about, well, James, you always scream the black agenda this, the black agenda that. You always scream that we need to have an agenda and everything like that. You dang right. I think we should be first sit down in a room and say, these are the things we want to be brought to the table to fix our problems in our community. A black agenda. The first thing of a black agenda should be at the top of it is we need to have more economics than we had yesterday. If we had 10% economics this week, then we need to be at 20% economics next week. If we had 10 millionaires last week, we should have 20 millionaires next week. We should be doing everything we can to stop pulling each other down like crabs and start pushing each other like we should be pushing. We should be climbing up Jacob's ladder. We should be doing all that stuff right there. And we got to stop allowing religion, and I'll say it, because religion is nothing but doing something over and over and over again. It's just like insanity. Insanity is doing something over and over and over again. But the difference between religion and insanity is religion is just doing it over and over and over again. But insanity is doing something over and over and over again, expecting a different result, but you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And we're going to keep going in that circle over and over again until guess what? Until what? Until we break that insanity. We're going to keep dealing with religion until we break the insanity. Some of y'all been going to the church that you grew up in because that's your grandfather's church, or that's your great-grandfather's church, or that's your father's church, and you're the fourth generation that's going to that church, and you don't have a dang clue about why you go to that church because you're doing it out of religion. And it's insane because you're still going to that church. You have not breaking the mold and say, look here, what was good for my grandfather may not be good for me. And in this generation, in this time, in this day and age, I need to be doing something totally different than what my grandfather did. Because guess what? Me continue to do the same thing over and 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 over again gets repetitive, it gets boring, and it leaves us docile. If we want to change your state of mind, then you need to be willing to change your state of mind. You can't change your state of mind stuck in the same changed state of mind. If you need it, you can't drive down the same street expecting to get a different destination. You have to make a turn left or right. You have to, even if you go backwards, it's still better than where you were going. And some people are just pedaling just to be pedaling. They don't even know where they're going or how they're getting it. But this is how someone did it before me. And I enjoy doing it that same way. And I'm going to continue to do it this way because that's how my daddy did it. That's how my granddaddy did it. That's how everybody else did it. That's what we keep failing at. We keep failing because we're not willing to break the code. We're not willing to break the mold. But if y'all think that y'all going to change by doing the same thing over again, then guess what? Hey, man, shouts out to you. Wish you best luck. But we need to go back to, once again, the black agenda is the greatest thing we can ever do in our community. I think that's tied to making sure we bridge economics. If our government structure should be an African-American government structure because the body of the people is African-American in base, what that means is, so I can get a translation here, so people don't get mad at me, because I don't want people in Savannah, Georgia mad at me, because I know y'all think that I'm talking about Savannah, Georgia, but I'm not. But if your community is 70% African-American, and then I look at the city officials that make up your government structure, and it's 70% white up there, then guess what? We have a problem right now. Or Caucasian Americans. Or white Americans, whatever you want to call it today. We got a big problem. Because guess what? Your makeup of your government structure, the leaders who actually over you, serve you, and everything like that, should be the same makeup of your population. It should be a rights of approval. Now, that's going to lead me to my next piece that I do want to talk about for at least 15 minutes. Government has gotten smart to the point of understanding that these numerics don't always work well. And because of that, you have what it calls gentrification. That's a key word that's one of them SAT words I need all y'all to learn. Redistricting. That's one of them other words that I need y'all to learn. Reapportionment. That's one of them other words that government likes to play with that you need to learn. See, those three words right there, gerrymandering. I don't know if I said that, but that's one of them words that needs to be learned. See, these are terms that affect African Americans, black people, people of color. Those are the terms that affect us more than any other term there is. Redlining, that's another one of them terms that we should be knowing about. See, it's time out for black people, African American people, people of color, whatever we want to call ourselves today. It's time out for us, number one, to not identify ourselves with one term first. The second term is it's time out for us to stop being bamboozled every 10 years when they keep drawing these lines. They get drawn these lines, and then we scream, oh, that's gerrymandering. But then I ask you what gerrymandering is, and you don't have a clue what that word gerrymandering is. It's time out for when redistricting happens, and I say, okay, well, who is your current leadership? Who's your current state rep? and you don't have a clue of who your current state rep is. Or when I ask who your current state rep is, oh, that's my church member, so-and-so, Joe Brown. And he been my church member for 32 years, and he been in his seat for 32 years. Oh, good. Then what policy has he passed? And there go the crickets. Y'all hear him? Shh, shh. Economics. Shh, shh. Y'all heard the crickets? Y'all heard the crickets? That it's time out for that. Black America, I need you to wake up and understand how government works. That's why I did it a couple of weeks ago. That's why I broke down executive branch, judicial branch, legislative branch. I gave you a brief synopsis of it at the beginning of this thing right here. So if you want to hear it, go back to the beginning and listen to it. It's time out for us not to understand who represents us on the municipal level, the county level, the state level. When I say the state level, I'm talking about your governor all the way down the ballot. I'm talking about your state senators and your state reps. And if you live in a county like Chatham County, who all those people are tied to your county. Because you know what? That's how they play us. Because they know you ain't going to take the time to go out there and learn this stuff. They rather you go out there and have a host and say, oh, shouts out Bernard Brown on the show. Shouts out James Guilford on the show. How you doing? How your mama doing? How everybody doing? Shouts out to this person. Shouts out to that person. That's what we much rather have. Somebody who's going to give us that fluff kind of talk. Because what we want to do is engage in fluff talk because you know what? We understand fluff talk. Or guess what? We understand BS talk because I ain't going to cuss on here. But y'all understand BS talk all day long. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of who actually writes the laws, who does the laws, and who does everything for you, if you don't know those people, then shame on you. You can't get mad at anybody just because you only know who the mayor name is, but the mayor only makes laws within the city confines of your structure. But then when it comes time for you to get your when it comes time to get your child education and you understand why there's not enough money in the Hope Scholarship because the government done changed the Hope Scholarship from now it used to serve impoverished people when it was initially started in 1996, and now it serves kids of privilege because almost in 25 years later, they done changed the rules of the game of that. Because guess what? While we were sleeping, they were actually changing the rules to benefit them. And so now Johnny, who would have benefited being able to go to college, can't get the Hope Scholarship because Johnny's losing that money to a privileged kid. And then guess what? Last time I checked, I can't stand going to the gas station, but last time I checked, the main people out there buying these lottery tickets ain't those rich privileged kids who's benefiting from the lottery dollars. And so when you get played by the system, you can't get mad by being played by the system because you allow the system to get paid. Hey, if poor people, and I say poor people, I'm talking about poor people, white and black. I ain't gonna put a color construct to that. Poor people are the ones who feed the lottery system. And rich people are the ones who will start to benefit off the lottery system. Yes, I tell you every now and then somebody poor wins the lottery. And the sad part about it is if they don't have a system built around them, they're going to be poor people again. But what I'm saying is the lottery, when it was introduced to Georgia, it was introduced as an institute that was going to help poor black people in majority case census get into the education system. 25 years later, the state legislature, along with governors in this state of Georgia, have changed the rules as far as who is the one who can get that money. If you don't believe me, you don't believe me, look it up. Just type in Georgia Lottery recipients, and you can type in 2021 recipients, and you can go back to 1996 recipients when the lottery was made. And guess what? And I might be off on the year when it was made. But guess what? You can look at who really was supposed to benefit has dissipated away. And I think it might have been 94 because I think it was the year after I graduated high school. So I might be misconstrued as far as that date, as far as when it started. But I can tell you now who it was supposed to benefit no longer is the general body. It still benefits. Now, I am glad that it's supposed to help out pre-K programs. I'm glad it's supposed to help all those other things. But until we put Democratic presence, I guess, in the Gold Dome, in Atlanta, Georgia, we're not going to be able to receive the same benefits from that our counterparts were getting at one point in time. So I say all that to say this, y'all. You know, and I rambled today because my mind was off track because of the court case. I just cannot believe that a person committed murder in the United States of America. They killed 2 people in the United States of America, and it wasn't an incident. When you go out there with a assault rifle of any kind, it's not an incident, and it's loaded. If I was in Chatham County at 46 with a loaded assault rifle, and I went down to a white Lives Matter rally with assault rifle, I would have been dead on the scene. And y'all would have saw in the newspaper, it might not even got CNN coverage. I would have been dead on the scene, and guess what y'all would have said? That he had no right going down there with an assault rifle. And the sad part about it is, I'm of age, and I got a card. I'm a card carrying member. I have a card to be able to carry any kind of gun. I got a card. But you know what? If that would have been me going in Savannah, Georgia with an assault rifle, I can see it right now. I'd be in jail. I'd be either in jail, under the jail, or I'd be dead. One of the 3. But I dang sure wouldn't be going home not guilty. And even if they would have arrested me, they would have found some charges to put on me. And even if I wouldn't have killed nobody, just having a gun, I would have been in jail. But this guy, he had a rifle, and then he turned around and killed 2 people. 2 people are dead. 2 people can never breathe another day in their life. Another day in their life, they can't even breathe. What about the families? And the sad part about it is they ain't even black people. So I can't even. It ain't even. It's just a justice system that's not fair for all. It's a justice system that needs to be reformed. I think we just need to take it, erase all the books on it, and start all over. Because you know what? There is no way on God's green earth that should have went the way it did. No way. And as far as what's going on in my own backyard, 76 miles south of where I live at right now, 76 miles south of where I live at, Ahmaud Arbery, you see, they stalled in that case. Ain't nobody else going to tell me anything otherwise. They messed up with the jury selection. Now you got the prosecutor, I'm not the prosecutor, but you got the defense out here saying outlandish thing. They racial slurs like, we don't need no more black pastors out here. You got these kind of conversations that's going on in America right now today. Right now today. You got in America, not yesterday, today. Today. You got that going on in America right now today. They were crying about the prayer that happened yesterday. You got that going on today in America. If you got that going on today in America, they still showing that privilege is trying to flex its authority. And you know what I told my friend the other day, I pray God that if they come back not guilty now, you ain't got to worry about me coming to my house for a while. You ain't got to worry about me coming to my house, because you know what? And I'm not, that young man should not have been executed or killed. Ahmaud Arbery should be living among us today. And those men were executors, and they did what was not right by the law. If you read the comments, it was a list of comments, it was a list of questions that was asked today. And he said no to every last one of them except the statement. And let me pull it up for you, because I want to read it exactly what was said today. Here it goes. This was asked Travis McMichaels today. Prosecutor, did Ahmaud Arbery reach into his pocket? Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor, did he yell? Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor, did he threaten you? Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor, brandish weapons? He said no. Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor, did he have a gun? Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor said, did he have a knife? Travis McMichaels said no. Prosecutor, he just ran? He said yes. So when you ask a series of questions right there, where are we going at? And you right, sis. Imagine if there wasn't no video. Where would we be standing at right now? What we see. And the sad part about thing is now, in the days of American society, you can have video and still get off. That's the thing. Our judicial system is broken. I'm sorry, I can't say it anymore. Our judicial system is broken. It needs a brand new retread, fix, whatever you want to call it. Our judicial system is broken. And what are we going to do to fix it? You know, I talk to lawyers in my own community all the time and say, hey, brother, you going to run for public office or run for DA or run for one of the judicial seats? Nah, man, that system right there, man, when you lose in that system, man, you might as well go ahead and close your practice up and never work another day in this community. You have brothers and sisters who are completely scared to challenge the system. That's what goes on in our judicial system across America. You have brothers and sisters who are scared, and even in Democratic counties like ours, you got brothers and sisters who are scared to say, hey, man, you know what? I'm going to run. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to run because we need better judges. We need a better DA. We need a better this. I mean, you know, shouts out to my DA, Shalana Cook Jones. That chick own it. She own it. She own it. When she came in that office, day one, she did what she had to do. She worked what she had to work. And guess what? It wasn't white America that blocked her on a lot of things she was trying to do. It was black America that blocked her on a lot of things she would do. I'm going to be the first one to admit that. She wasn't fighting always against white people when it came to things. She was fighting against black people who were in powerful positions. She was fighting against black people. When she showed them and said, look here, this is a situation from the previous DA who was a Caucasian female who was holding up court cases, who were holding people in jail longer than they needed to be. It wasn't white people who kept them from doing that. It was black people who kept them from doing that. She gave a plan that was actually going to save money. It wasn't white people that stopped her. It was black people that stopped her. So I want it understood and clear. Sometimes all your skin folk ain't kinfolk. So I want to make sure it's clear. In America, we still got these problems. We still got a lot of people who are undercover, don't want to go ahead and shake the system. I hear it all the time myself. Yes, sir, I used to be a public officer. I hear it all the time myself. I hear it all the time myself, y'all. A lot of times I hear it all the time myself. And what I'm about to tell you I hear all the time is this. A lot of times I hear this. I hear, Jay, we need you not to run because you're too vocal. You're too open as far as the truth is concerned. You need to tone it down. And once again, that ain't coming from white people. That comes from black people. So a lot of times we need to check the skin folk that ain't kinfolk. And I want to make sure I close out my conversation with that, because it is too many times we blame the white people, even the devil, for a lot of things out there. But a lot of times we need to look right there in our own backyard before we go out there sweeping around somebody else's. And so I know somebody's probably super mad at me for all this stuff I just said right here. Somebody is super, and the judge in Aubrey's case should have ordered the whole defense team to refrain from racist conversation in this courtroom. But you know what, Margot, the sad part about that situation is this. This man right here, the judge, and I'll say this because I know this, he was appointed in 2002 by a Republican governor to fill that state. And he has ran, listen what I'm about to tell you. In 2004, he ran unopposed. In 2008, he ran unopposed. In 2012, he ran unopposed. In 2016, he ran unopposed. I mean, and I might be off on the years because he's actually up for election in 2022. So, but I'm off on the years. But I can tell you this: he has never had to run against anybody. I can say that with affirmation. He was appointed in 2002, and he's never had to run against anybody. So what are we going to do? We can't talk about it if you got judges going into seats and they living in seats. And this ain't the Supreme Court where you got to go through the vetting process of the Senate and get appointed by. We ain't talking about that. We talking about local judges who are sitting on our ballot that have been in decades been in these positions in these seats. We talking about them kind of judges. We ain't talking about Supreme Court judges where it's out of our hands. This is all in our hands. But the thing is, we can't find people to run for office. And I don't care. And, I don't have a problem with the judge. My thing is, I don't think anybody should run uncontested for more than 8 years. I don't think anybody should be in position for more than 8 years and not be held accountable. And that's just my personal opinion about it. Brunswick, Georgia was always like that back in the 1980s. Talking Wolverines, we went down there and played a football game, and it ate all us if we lost a because leave town. We won, got on the bus, and got the hell on. Shots, I love my big brother. But we need more people like you who isn't afraid to speak real truth, the corrupt power. No problem. I appreciate it, brother. The judge for Rittenhouse case was some kind of special. Ridiculous. You're absolutely right, my sister. And yes, ma'am, that is a problem, Margot. And we have to be willing to have heart to fix that problem. And I think, Margot, you're a witness to what I saw. Barbie, Councilman Barbie is a witness to what I saw. We took home, if we didn't do anything else in Port Wentworth, we took home the victory. We took home the victory. The people won there. The people won in Port Wentworth. If the people won in Port Wentworth. If I wanted to close out my moment, I wanted to make sure I stress that. The people won in Port Wentworth, because guess what? We're going to get positive, infectious change. And that mayor who cheated, robbed, and stole an election, he's going to suffer retribution behind that, because we're going to be on his ass the whole dang time. And if Facebook shut me down for saying the word ass, then you know what I say about Facebook too. But we're going to be on that mayor's ass about that. And Thomas, we're not going to give that mayor a free pass on nothing, because what he did yesterday was some stupid stuff. And guess what? I called you to talk about it, but me and you going to talk about it even further, because you know what? We're going to show the rest of the world that Port Wentworth means business. And in 10 years, because Port Wentworth is like number 2, number 3 in the state of Georgia as far as percentage growth, we're going to show that Port Wentworth ain't no chump change when it comes down to business, when it comes to government. And we need to make sure we show the rest of America, because we showed them when we flipped the 2 Senate seats. Now it's time to make sure we flip all of Georgia to understand being true blue is the most important thing we can ever do. And so with that being said, yes, we need a rehab on the judicial system. Yes, we need to make sure we look at politics and make sure politics don't beat us. But yes, we need a projected progressive agenda that's going to move the narrative forward to make sure black people are doing and getting what they need. Peace out to y'all people. See y'all next Friday. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Producer, take us out.